All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Richard with Google Cloud. Tammy is here with us today to chat about multi-cloud. Tammy, tell us what you do again.
Hi, everyone. I'm an SRE at Gremlin.
Awesome. What does that entail? What's site reliability engineering for those of us who don't always remember it?
Yeah, a lot of different types of work, incident management, being on call, automation, reliability, making sure that you are reducing downtime and keeping systems up and running for customers. And also I specialize in chaos engineering. I've been doing that since 2009.
Awesome. So what do you think of when someone says the word multi-cloud?
In the early days of the cloud, I thought of on-prem plus a cloud provider for compute, because that's what I first started doing back in, I think it was 2011 when I was working at the National Australia Bank. And then a little time went by and I started to think of using multiple cloud providers at the same time for both cost efficiency and then reliability requirements, being able to do failover, for example. But nowadays I think of not just compute on the cloud, but also new services that are available across different cloud providers. For example, we use Google's BigQuery and also Data Studio for data, and then we use other cloud providers for compute and other different types of services.
So do you think that's one of the primary reasons people do multi-cloud is sometimes accessing those unique services? Is that what you see?
Yeah, I think it's actually a really amazing new way that you can use the cloud. Because when you're thinking of adding a new type of service, for example, I was just doing some work on identifying different types of services that we could use for speech to text. It's really good if you could take each of the cloud providers' solutions for a test drive and figure out what fits your needs best first. And then also you might consider building it from scratch yourself, but that could take a lot of time and maybe it's not your core business. So nowadays, to me, it's easier and faster to experiment and then also plumb different services across cloud providers together, which kind of reminds me of that 90s DOS game Pipe Dream. Like you're just able to plug and play, which I really love.
That's awesome. So what's the hard part? So that can sound great, but where are the things, at least in kind of even setting that up, where you'd be like, hey, be careful. There's some sharp edges.
Yeah, there's a few different areas where I've seen people get caught. One of the most important things to think about first is right sizing your cloud use and also keeping an eye on cost, performance, reliability. I think like a lot of folks maybe sometimes might assume that out of the box, you just get all of these things and it just works perfectly once you move to the cloud. But there's a lot of mistakes that folks can make in terms of configuration being not set up correctly, or just actually having limits in place where they don't realize until they get a ton of traffic and then suddenly there's an outage because they didn't plan for that or have the capacity available to be able to scale up. So yeah, that's why I'm a big fan of chaos engineering. Even as we've moved to the cloud, instead of being on-prem, I started doing chaos engineering on-prem for large-scale disaster recovery and failover. But now with the cloud, chaos engineering is a great way to be able to inject failure on purpose to identify areas of improvement and then avoid downtime.
Yeah, that's great. How do you think of doing a chaos experiment that might span clouds? Because there's enough chaos that can happen in a single cloud, a single region, a single AZ. So all of a sudden when I start thinking about, wow, I've got services sitting in this cloud, maybe even something on-prem. First of all, have you designed experiments like that? What would that even look like? How do you start?
Yeah, definitely. So a lot of our customers are doing exactly that. They're working with 2 or 3 different cloud providers. And so Gremlin is a chaos engineering platform as well. And it's really cool to be able to help them plan for those experiments. My main tip is always, I actually started out doing large-scale disaster recovery. That was my initiation into chaos engineering, where you take down an entire data center and fail over to a backup one. And it was more like hot cold. But these days what we would recommend is, hey, let's actually do something a bit smaller to start. So let's have a small blast radius and gradually expand. So for example, if you're using a managed service, maybe let's just see what happens if that service is unavailable. Does your team know? Do they get paged? What if you can't reach it? And that could be an issue that could happen on your side. Maybe somebody makes a change and suddenly that service isn't available, but nobody realizes. That's really important. That's just a small example.
That's great. So it seems like it's a discipline made up of not just the operational piece, but it's alerting, you're testing out architecture, you're testing out a lot of things. What comes out of an experiment? So when you finish an experiment, let's say it's multi-cloud, and you tried turning off your cloud database, you have some things on-prem, what next? What do you follow up that experiment with?
Yeah, that's a really common use case for chaos engineering, exactly what you just described, Richard. And one of the things that I love to do then is create patterns. So like a really great thing when moving to the cloud is what are the patterns we need for reliability and performance once we're on the cloud? And this enables you to actually create those. And then that's why if you just move one service first, that's like my biggest tip is start with one service. Let's just see how we can do a really great job with that service, create some patterns, and then automate those patterns. So as you move more services, you can continuously inject failure and understand that things are still working correctly as you expect. And then after that, I think like one of the really important things is to share your results. So what I like to do is write up executive summaries. This is what our initial hypothesis was. This is what we learned from injecting the failure. And this is what we actually went and fixed because maybe we had set something up incorrectly and we needed to make a change for us to actually be using the cloud in an appropriate way.
That's great. So if someone's thinking about multi-cloud, they're thinking about SRE, they're thinking about chaos engineering, what should their learning path be? Like, what's that next thing that you think, let's say, an operations team might want to learn, even a developer? Kind of walk me through what a good next step would be for someone who wants to learn more about this discipline.
Definitely. So for me, like actually, when I was working at Dropbox, we created an SRE apprenticeship program. I was part of creating that. And it was very much like, a Jedi apprentice program. I think it is really good to have a one-on-one match if you want to learn about these types of skills. And that's just finding a mentor. Find someone from the industry that's willing to help you out, or maybe someone from within your own organization so you can learn about moving to the cloud. Definitely, you can join a Slack community that we run over at gremlin.com/Slack. There's actually almost 8,000 engineers in there, and there's a learning channel. So like ping folks there. But, as part of our apprenticeship program, we focused on having a great mentor, but also learning by actually just trying things out in demo environments. That's like a really big tip of mine. And, don't start with production, build a demo environment first to learn, and then actually learn by shadowing, and then learn by real practice. So it's training, shadowing, and real practice.
That's terrific. Yeah, hopefully for a lot of folks, there's a big community here. Nobody's doing this by themselves. So Tammy, thank you for joining us today, and appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks so much. And of course, everyone should read the Google SRE book if you want to learn more about it too. Thank you.
Of course.